Welcome back, everyone. We're setting off on another deep dive, and this time we're journeying through the world of Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings.
Middle-earth.
We all know it's an epic tale of good versus evil, but we're going deeper this time.
Deeper.
Yeah, we're going to explore the Catholic heart beating within this epic. I'm really excited about this one.
Me too. You know, it's fascinating how Tolkien, a devout Catholic himself, wove his faith into Middle-earth.
Right. I mean, there's so much there that we might have missed, even if we've read the books or seen the movies a million times.
Exactly. You know, it's like we're going on a quest searching for these hidden symbols and meanings. It's going to be fun.
I've got my walking staff ready, so where do we even begin?
The best place to start any quest is with the source material. You know, Tolkien himself called The Lord of the Rings a fundamentally religious and Catholic work.
Yeah. But there's no, like, overt religious stuff, right? Like, no sermons or anything.
Not on the surface, no. But the Catholicism is there, woven into the very fabric of the story, almost like a hidden language.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So where do we start deciphering this hidden language?
Well, let's start with a very specific date, a date that holds a profound significance in our faith. March 25th.
March 25th. That's the day the ring is destroyed, right?
Precisely. Tolkien chose that date very deliberately. In the Catholic Church, you see, March 25th is the Feast of the Annunciation.
Ah, the Annunciation. The day the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Announcing that she would conceive and bear the Son of God.
Wow, so the ring's destruction is happening on the very same day that we celebrate the Incarnation.
Yes, and there's more. Many early Christians, Tolkien included, believed that March 25th was also the date of the crucifixion.
Whoa. So this one date, this one single day, links the Incarnation, the crucifixion, and the destruction of the ring. That's incredible.
It is, and it reveals something profound about how Tolkien viewed the ring.
What do you mean?
Well, you see, the ring can be seen as an allegory for sin. Putting on the ring, succumbing to its temptation, becoming consumed by its power, that's like sinning.
So the ring bearer, like Frodo, is burdened with this symbol of sin, carrying its weight for everyone else.
Exactly. And the destruction of the ring on March 25th, a date signifying Christ's victory over sin, well, it's a powerful statement about the possibility of redemption.
Even in the darkest moments, hope prevails. I love that. But, you know, speaking of Christ figures, I've always kind of felt like Frodo himself is a Christ figure.
He is, but he's not the only one.
Wait, there are multiple Christ figures in The Lord of the Rings?
At least three major ones, Frodo, Gandalf, and Aragorn. It's like Tolkien is showing us the fullness of Christ's threefold office.
The threefold office. Remind me what that is again?
Priest, prophet, and king. Christ is our priest, offering the ultimate sacrifice. He's our prophet, revealing God's truth. And he's our king, ruling with love and justice. Ah, right. And Tolkien assigns these roles to Frodo, Gandalf, and Aragorn. Like they're each showing us a different aspect of Christ's mission.
Exactly, like facets of a beautiful jewel, you know, reflecting different colors of light. Each character shines a light on what it means to be a savior.
Right, you've got to break this down for me. Let's start with Frodo. How is he a priestly figure?
Think about it. Frodo carries the ring to Mordor. He's willingly taking on this burden, this weight of sin and suffering, all for the sake of others, just like Christ carried the cross to Calvary.
It's true. Frodo's journey isn't about glory or personal gain. It's a completely sacrificial mission.
And it leaves him forever marked, right? Scarred both physically and emotionally, just like Christ bore the wounds of his sacrifice.
It's a powerful image. And what about Frodo's struggle against the ring? That's got to be part of it too, right?
Of course. His internal battle against the ring's temptation, that mirrors our own battles against sin. His willpower weakens, his spirit grows weary, but ultimately he chooses to resist the ring's power. It's such a powerful testament to our own potential to resist temptation, even when it feels impossible. Okay, what about Gandalf? He always seemed like the wise old mentor. How does he fit into the prophetic role?
Gandalf, like the prophets of old, guides and warns others, reveals truths about good and evil. He's constantly offering wisdom, even when it's ignored.
Right, like no one ever seems to listen to him.
Exactly. Much like the prophets, whose messages were so often ignored. And then, of course, there's his death and resurrection.
Oh, yeah. Gandalf the Grey falls to the Balrog in Moria, and then he comes back as Gandalf the White, even more powerful and radiant than before.
That's got to be the ultimate prophetic parallel, right? His sacrifice, his return, it signifies hope and the ultimate triumph of good over evil, just like Christ's resurrection conquered death.
Gives me chills just thinking about it.
Okay.
Okay, so that leaves us with Aragorn. He's the kingly figure, right?
He's the hidden heir, the true king returning to claim his throne and restore order to his kingdom.
It's all very messianic, isn't it?
Absolutely. And remember that prophecy about Aragorn, the hands of the king are the hands of a healer.
Oh, right. And Aragorn literally has healing abilities.
He heals the sick, brings peace and unity to Gondor, just as Christ's kingship promises a restoration of harmony between God and humanity.
It's a beautiful image, isn't it? Leadership is service, healing, and bringing people together. I love it. But I'm also curious about Galadriel.
Ah, Galadriel. She's fascinating, a powerful figure, and in many ways I see her as a Marian figure.
Whoa, hold on. A Marian figure? You mean like the Virgin Mary?
Exactly. Think about it. Galadriel is full of grace, wisdom, and purity, just like Mary. She offers guidance, gives gifts to those who seek her help, but she does it gently, never forces her will.
Like when she gives Gimli 3 strands of her hair. That always felt like really significant to me.
It is. Remember, she refused to give her hair to Fëanor, the elf known for his pride. But to Gimli, she recognizes his good heart, his humility, and she rewards that. Like Mary's intercession, it promotes healing and reconciliation.
So she sees the good in everyone, even the rough around the edges Gimli. And what about when she refuses the ring?
Oh, that's crucial. When Frodo offers her the ring, she sees the power she could have, but she chooses to refuse it. It's an act of humility that echoes Mary's fiat, her acceptance of God's will.
I never thought about it that way, but yeah, she chooses humility over power. It's like Mary proclaiming in the Magnificat, right? Yeah. Bringing down the powerful and lifting up the lowly. Wow, this is blowing my mind.
It's powerful stuff, isn't it? And speaking of powerful, what about Lemba's bread?
Lemba's bread? You mean that elvish way bread that keeps the fellowship going on their journey? What about it?
Well, we were talking about the Eucharist earlier, and many scholars believe that Lemba's bread, given by Galadriel to the fellowship, is a Eucharistic symbol. It nourishes both body and soul, gives them strength beyond ordinary food.
So it's like she's offering them a taste of heaven, a little glimpse of the divine to sustain them on their journey.
Precisely. And we've only just begun our exploration. We've still got Minas Tirith and Mordor and all those amazing characters and themes to uncover.
I know, I can't wait. For all of you joining us on this deep dive, what's standing out to you? What are your thoughts so far? Keep those in mind as we continue our journey through the Catholic heart of Middle-earth. Welcome back to our deep dive, everyone. We're still exploring the Catholic heart of Middle-earth. So much to uncover.
I know, right? It's amazing how many layers of meaning Tolkien packed into this story.
Yeah. We've already talked about the significance of March 25th and those Christ figures and Galadriel as a Marian figure. What's next?
Well, how about we journey to the grand city of Minas Tirith, the capital of Gondor?
Minas Tirith. It's a human city, though, right? What sort of Catholic symbolism can we find there?
But Tolkien layers it with meaning, you see. Imagine standing atop the White Tower, looking out over the Pelennor Fields. You're standing in a place that echoes both Rome and Jerusalem.
Whoa. Hold on. 2 cities. How does Minas Tirith reflect Jerusalem, the holy city?
Think about it. Minas Tirith is this besieged city, waiting for its true king, Aragorn, to return. Just like Jerusalem in Christian theology, yearning for the rightful ruler, the restoration of peace and justice.
Oh, I see. And the siege of Minas Tirith by Sauron's forces. It's almost like a reflection of all those historical sieges Jerusalem has faced, right?
Precisely. This grand battle between light and darkness, good and evil. And just as Christian tradition speaks of a new Jerusalem descending from heaven, Minas Tirith experiences a renewal with Aragorn's return. It's like the city is reborn, washed clean.
Wow, it's amazing how Tolkien uses these parallels to give the story such depth. But you mentioned Rome, too. How does that fit in?
Well, Minas Tirith is the last bastion of Númenórean civilization, right? Much like Rome was the heart of the classical world. Order, tradition, the rule of law.
So it's more than just a city. It's a whole way of life, a culture struggling to survive. And what about the stewards? They ruled Gondor while there was no king, right?
Ah, yes, the stewards. That's where it gets really interesting. You see, ruling in the king's absence, they can be seen as representing the papal states. That time when the Pope was the spiritual authority, but not the temporal ruler.
Ah, okay, I see. So the papal states served as a reminder of the church's presence, even when they weren't in total control.
Exactly. Or you could even see them as representing those later Roman emperors, governing while waiting for a true leader.
So they could represent spiritual authority or temporal authority, both so important to Rome's history.
Exactly. And don't forget the physical layout of Minas Tirith,
Wow.
built on 7 levels, echoing the 7 hills of Rome. Even in its architecture, Tolkien's making these connections.
Wow. The absent king, the stewards, the 7 levels. Tolkien really paints Minas Tirith as a kind of new Rome. But what about when Aragorn does return?
Ah, Aragorn's return. It's pivotal. He's not just a king, he's a healer. Heals the sick physically and spiritually, brings renewal. His reign restores Gondor to its former glory, like the idea of Rome as the center of Christendom.
So even when all hope seems lost, there's still the possibility of restoration, of renewal.
You got it. Minas Tirith is a city of hope, the resilience of the human spirit, the enduring power of faith.
This is blowing my mind. I never realized how much Tolkien put into this one city. Makes me want to visit it, explore every corner.
That's the beauty of Tolkien's work, right? Always more to discover. But for now, let's leave the shining city of Minas Tirith and journey to the other end of the spectrum.
You mean Mordor?
Mordor, the very heart of darkness.
Whoa. Talk about a change of scenery. What kind of Catholic insights await us there? I mean, it's the opposite of Minas Tirith, right?
Right. Mordor isn't just a physical place. It's a spiritual state, the embodiment of hell, sin, corruption, everything opposed to God's order.
So it's a battleground for the soul, for our hearts.
Exactly. Every detail about Mordor, it reflects this rejection of God's grace. The land is barren, lifeless, mirroring the spiritual emptiness of sin. The air, it's choked with fumes and ash, suffocating, like being separated from God's love.
It's terrifying. Like Mount Doom, that volcano at the heart of Mordor, it's hard not to see it as a symbol of hellfire.
It is the ultimate consequence of sin. But remember, even in the depths of Mordor, in the shadow of Mount Doom, there's still a glimmer of hope.
That's right. Frodo and Sam, they journey to Mount Doom to destroy the ring. They enter the heart of darkness to try and destroy it.
And that's the point. Even in the darkest moments, God's grace is there. Frodo and Sam, they can't enter Mordor through force. They have to sneak in, rely on humility, stealth.
So Tolkien is saying that evil can't be overcome by force alone.
Exactly. It's the path of Christ, isn't it? Conquering sin and death, not through force, but through love and surrender.
Wow. Powerful stuff. But what about those other landmarks in Mordor, like the Black Gate and Minas Morgul?
Oh, they're terrifying. The Black Gate with its impenetrable walls, it's like the opposite of Heaven's Gates, the barrier between good and evil.
In Minas Morgul, it's like a twisted, corrupted version of Minas Tirith, right?
Like a fallen Jerusalem, yes. Once beautiful, but now defiled. It's a warning. Even the purest intentions can be corrupted.
And what about those creatures who inhabit Mordor? The Nazgul. Those ring wraiths always creeped me out.
The Nazgul, well, they're a perfect example of how sin can twist anything. Remember, they were once kings, men of power, but their lust for power consumed them, turned them into slaves.
It's scary to think about, that surrendering to evil can lead to spiritual slavery.
Yeah.
But what about Sauron himself? He's the big bad, right?
To understand Sauron, we need to go back even further, to Morgoth, Sauron's predecessor. The original Dark Lord, the ultimate evil.
Whoa, so we're talking about like the origin of evil itself. This is getting intense.
Morgoth, like Satan, was once a being of great power and beauty, but his pride, his desire for dominion, led to his fall.
So evil in Tolkien's world isn't some independent force, but a corruption of what was once good.
Yes. Catholic theology teaches that evil has no true existence of its own. It's a perversion of the good. Morgoth embodies that. He can't create, only corrupt. He twists what Eru, the creator god, has created. Elves into orcs, beautiful lands into wastelands.
Like the serpent in the garden, right? Tempting Eve with the forbidden fruit,
Yeah.
not offering anything new, just twisting what's already there.
Exactly. And like Satan tempting humanity with false promises of power, Morgoth and Sauron, they offer that same deceptive allure, dominion, control. But it only leads to destruction.
It's a warning to all of us, isn't it? To be wary of those who offer easy power, those shortcuts. True power comes from following God's path, even when it's hard.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But speaking of Sauron's servants, what about those Balrogs and the Nazgul?
Oh man, they're terrifying. They're like demons, right? Waging spiritual war against everything good.
Exactly. The Balrogs, once glorious beings of light consumed by pride and lust for power, and the Nazgul, once kings, but now enslaved by their desire for power.
It's a sobering reminder that even the most powerful can fall. But where do we go from here? We've been to Minas Tirith and Mordor. What else is there?
Well, we've seen this battle between good and evil play out on a grand scale, right? But now let's shift our focus to something smaller, more personal. The rings themselves, how they represent temptation.
Okay, I'm ready to talk rings. But before we do, let's pause for a moment. What are your thoughts so far? Has anything surprised you, challenged you? What new insights have you gained? Hold on to those thoughts as we delve into the symbolism of the rings and the many faces of temptation.
Welcome back to our deep dive. We're talking about those rings of power and how they tempt us, pull us away from God.
They really do.
Yeah.
Each ring represents a different kind of temptation, a different way we can go astray. Take the three elven rings, for
The
instance.
three rings. Yeah, they've always puzzled me a bit. Why didn't they corrupt their bearers like the other rings did?
Well, you see, their origins are different. They were made by the elves without Sauron's direct involvement, not tainted by him. So they were pure from the start.
You could say that. And their purpose was different too, not about domination or control, but about preserving, protecting a more noble use of power.
So it's like the difference between a gardener tending to their plants versus like a tyrant exploiting the land for their own gain.
A perfect analogy. And the bearers of the three, Gandalf, Elrond, Galadriel, they were already wise, selfless. They weren't seeking power for themselves. They used the rings to preserve beauty, knowledge, the elven way of life.
They understood that true power isn't about control, but about service. Like how Christ taught us to be servants, not masters.
Exactly. But remember, even the three rings were still bound to the one ring, you know? When it was destroyed, they lost their power too. Shows us that even the purest intentions can be affected by the shadow of evil.
It's a good reminder that we're all connected. What we do affects others, even if we don't see it. Okay, so what about the seven rings given to the dwarves? Those were different too, right?
Ugh, the dwarves. A stubborn bunch. Their nature made them less susceptible to Sauron's control. The 9 rings twisted men into those wraiths, consumed by power. But the 7, they mostly fueled the dwarves' greed, desire for wealth.
So it amplified what was already there rather than changing them completely.
Right. The dwarves loved treasure, and the rings just made that desire even stronger. Led to infighting, dragon attacks, the downfall of their kingdoms.
It's a good warning about materialism, isn't it? Thinking we can control our desires, but they end up controlling us.
We all need to hear that sometimes. Remember, true wealth isn't about possessions. It's about virtue, our relationship with God.
Like in the gospel, when Jesus says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. We've got to guard our hearts. Okay, so we've talked about the 3 and the 7, but what I've always found interesting is the gray havens. There's something so, I don't know, so poignant about it. Sorrowful, but also hopeful.
The Grey Havens, it's more than just a harbor. It's a threshold, a transition point between the mortal world and the eternal.
Like a gateway to heaven.
In a way, yes. For the elves, it's a homecoming, a return to peace. But for Frodo, bearing the wounds of carrying the ring, it offers healing, rest.
He's done his part, earned his peace.
It's bittersweet, sure, but it's also a fulfillment of his journey and a reminder that death isn't the end, but a transition.
We're all pilgrims, heading towards our true home.
Beautifully said. And just like the elves sailing west represent the soul's journey to heaven, Tolkien also uses his world to explore bigger ideas, like the kingdoms of Arnor and Gondor, for example.
Arnor and Gondor, those were the 2 human kingdoms, right? What's their Catholic significance?
Think about it. The Númenórean kingdom splitting into Arnor and Gondor, it parallels the division of Israel, in the Bible. Northern and southern kingdoms. And the fall of Númenor, that's like the Israelites' exile, a consequence of straying from God's path.
So Arnor, which declines and falls, it represents what happens when we turn away from God.
Exactly. Like the northern kingdom of Israel falling into idolatry, and Gondor. They face their own struggles too, like the southern kingdom of Judah trying to stay faithful. But even then, there's hope. Aragorn returns, the rightful heir. It's like the prophecy of a restored Davidic king, foreshadowing Christ.
Even when things fall apart, there's still a chance for restoration.
That's the beauty of it. Tolkien shows us sin, yes, and the consequences, but also the power of redemption, God's love.
It's amazing how much he put into this story. It's like he gave us this secret key to unlock all these deeper meanings.
We've only scratched the surface. So much more to explore.
It makes you want to dive back into the books, doesn't it?
Yeah.
See everything with new eyes.
It does. But for now, I think our journey is coming to an end.
I know, I'm a little sad to see it go. But I'm so grateful for all these insights, and I hope our listeners are too.
Me too. It's been a pleasure exploring Tolkien's world with you and with everyone listening.
And to all of you who joined us for this deep dive into the Catholic heart of the Lord of the Rings, we hope you found something to ponder, to challenge you, to inspire you. Tolkien's work is a gift that keeps on giving, and we encourage you to keep exploring it. Until next time, may your journeys be filled with grace, courage, and that enduring hope of eucatastrophe.